So, I mean, we're talking about a flux state at the moment that retail banks are looking at. So maybe there's going to be a number of regulatory changes. And the way that they offer transparency towards each other, to their customers, I mean, how is that going to play out, do you think?
Yeah. What we have seen in the crisis is that although we had some regulation in place, the regulation were not enforced and there was a lack of transparency. And the distress we have today is due to this lack of transparency. When the banks were offering some mortgages and when the credit risk was too high, they turned to another party and asked to cover their risk on their turn. And by creating those type of instruments in cascade, they induce into the whole system systemic risk that has not been managed. And then the drama happened. So we do believe that the regulators will have to react, but at the same time, technology needs to be there in place to help the banks implement the requirements, implement the tracking of those complex products, implement the risk management. And when you see the technology which is used to implement those monitoring control systems, most of the time, IT development and application development is too complex, too expensive, and too slow to react to the market conditions. If you look at the price of SEPA, the price of MiFID, these are all regulations that are highly expensive for financial institutions, but bring zero new revenue and do not improve the P&L. So I do believe that a basic reflection should be started amongst technology providers and banks in order to have joint initiative, in order to implement regulation in a more cost-effective way. Because at the end of the game, SEPA and MiFID is the same for all banks.
Sure.
I also think slightly that banks are slightly like the tethered guard dog that runs on anything it can see to eat, and then suddenly gets yanked back only once it's reached the end of the chain. Of course, everything's led by the front office, and as we've seen with OTC derivatives, by their very nature, over the counter, are normally traded in sort of small quantities and bank to bank. And as that becomes automated, it becomes automated from the front end first, and the back office doesn't necessarily follow. And then, so the front is moving a lot faster than the back, and that creates huge problems. Development of these products needs to be tied to the development of technology, as you say. The banks have to have some handle on making sure they can control the product development along with the technology development, so they have accountability within their own systems. I mean, I can't think of a good retail example, but the idea of automating something that you sell and then not having any idea of whether you have anything in the storeroom at the back would just be, ridiculous for, say, a supermarket. But this seems to be something that banks are happy to do. So I think technology has a huge role to play there, but it just needs to be accepted by the banks that they need to start building product with kit.
Sure.
Well, I think the other technology aspects where some parts in the bank have wanted to do something for some time, but the front office was, look, we're the ones making the money go away, that there needs to be a lot more technology in having all the audits, whether it's from knowing who did what, where, when and how, revoking somebody, simple things like revoking somebody's ID and being sure that it's revoked everywhere in the system because it is all automated right through, aside from obviously having the process sorted out, because when you have simple violations like in most banks, somebody from the back or middle office would never ever be allowed to go front office, never mind with his password still intact. And so there are always process issues to address as well, but there is a lot more where technology could and must be deployed to not only automate what you've described, but also automate the full audit. And that's where I believe new regulation will be going. I think we're all agreed it goes in the direction of transparency and audit. But what will also happen, I believe, is a requirement to do an almost immediate audit, where you don't have to wait for things to be rolled up every quarter and report it in a certain way, but where you can say, okay, what are your positions now?